Hello and welcome to this video log for the Survivor Diaries episodes, which are on YouTube. This is one of the video logs, so it's more behind the scenes. I want to update you about what's going on. We've had some very exciting progress as far as I'm concerned. When I say we, I'm talking about the co-producer of the Survivor Diaries, which is Paul, who is my partner, and he does a huge amount of work in the background, doing editing and making all the things flash up as they do. So while we're both on a very steep learning curve about both video logging and the editing required, it is taking a huge amount of time. So that's one of the first things that I wanted to say. Paul is, like me, he works full time, and so he's doing this as well, sort of evenings, weekends, sort of snatched moments. And one of the things that I wanted to say about him is that he is, in my mind, in my view, he is the Pat Craven friend. So, not gloating. It's a very equal relationship. As I keep saying, I do believe that these relationships exist, and that's one of the things that I wanted to get clear. I was talking to a lady this week who, when we were talking about our comparative circumstances, and she's just leaving an abusive relationship, and we were discussing the fact that these perfect relationships can exist. It's just, by perfect, I just mean somebody who enjoys being with you and who feels the same with you, supports you, listens to you, doesn't try to make you feel horrible, and doesn't try to control you. And I'm sinking back into remembering how it was to be in that kind of relationship. And anyway, I was talking to this lady and she was saying, so, these relationships, they do exist. And I was saying, yes, definitely. So, keep hope. And she just laughed and she said, I'm getting a cat. So that tickled me anyway. And it's very good that people can find humour in situations when they're going through absolute hell. What we've got coming up, and which Paul has been working extremely hard on this week, we both have actually been working very hard on this week, because we want to release 2 episodes together at the weekend. One is on domestic abuse in a child arrangements application, so probably explain that the other way. One is what happens in a child arrangements application where domestic abuse is not a feature, and what we can expect the court to do, and general assumptions that the court might make, and why they make those assumptions. There's a piece of legislation that is why they make those assumptions. And then how the court should, I would say must, behave if there's an allegation of domestic abuse, and that is covered in a practice direction. So we want 2 episodes together, just 20 minutes or so each, just to give anybody experiencing the child arrangements process, private children law, and they haven't got a solicitor, and there are a lot of people who are litigant in person, I've realised in the last couple of weeks, and I'll come on again to why I know that, or why I've realised that. So, as a litigant in person, one of the first things that I've been able to see is that a lot of people are confused about the whole process. So coming back to where I was, and I'm aware that there are a lot of women, mothers, who are really scared of the child arrangements process, the family courts. Not just the private law as well. There are women who are genuinely not understanding the role of social services, for example, when social services come in, because if there is domestic abuse in the relationship, and if there are concerns raised outside of that, for example, the child's school or the police after a domestic incident, then that would trigger the involvement of children's services, and what they would be looking for is to make sure that the children are safe. So if domestic abuse is occurring between the parents, then as far as children's services are concerned, those children would not be safe until something has happened to support or assist the parties, the parents, in that situation. And the level of involvement from children's services would vary from case to case. If a mother of children decided, no, that's it, it's over, then probably children's services would quite quickly close the file. One of the things that I'm trying to impress upon my viewers, as well as the litigants in person that I want to help navigate their way through the child arrangements process, there's also the courts, CAFCAS, and I want to raise the example of good practice. There's good practice happening in the family courts, it's just not happening consistently, and it needs to, because it's causing this confusion. So the reason that I am aware of this general feeling of mothers who have experienced domestic abuse is because I've mentioned that I am currently, I'm waiting for the court date is approaching, beginning of June I will be in court, and I've said already that I've been ill since November, made ill by the police not following up on that allegation, even though there was evidence, and telling me in November that he'd been in interview and denied that that assault had happened. So I know that he is a person who is still abusive, still a person who potentially could be that violent again to someone, and that's a dangerous thing. It's especially dangerous when a person is just pretending it never happened, which is a type of psychological ongoing aggravation as well. And I have to see this person in court. I love the law. I believe that it works, and that there is this mechanism that is there, and safeguarding can happen to make all parties safe, so the mother and the children, as it usually is, and as I've already clarified and disclaimed, I'm likely to be referring to mothers who are fleeing domestic abuse, and there are children, and then there's this ongoing abuse through the child arrangements. And there's a lot of distrust of the family courts, and it's really unfortunate to see so much distrust and so much of a negative view of the family court system at the moment. When I was in my Freedom Programme group, which finished a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when the subject of child arrangements came up, all of the women in the group just groaned, because they don't trust the family court system. They're worried about the family court system, and I want to identify why I think that is as a solicitor. I want to identify this for the professional agencies and individuals involved, as much as I want to help the litigant in person who is also struggling and trying to navigate their way through this process. The other thing that I wanted to do in this video log is give you an idea of what's going on for me. And in my life, I've got work is extremely busy. I'm also, because I've got this application to deal with, I've got to respond to the application, so I've got to complete Form C7, I've got to complete Form C1A, send those to the court, I've got to have a telephone appointment with CAFCAS, and I'm sorry, but it's really going to be, it feels like it's going to be a lucky dip as to the kind of CAFCAS officer I get, because some CAFCAS officers are full on domestic abuse, practice direction 12J, this is what needs to happen, and they will actually say in the safeguarding letter, having considered practice direction 12J, I do not think direct contact should be supported at this time, because they need to make findings. They need to find out if it's safe for the children, and if it's safe for the mother. So you get CAFCAS officers doing that, and then unfortunately you also get CAFCAS officers who just don't engage with the domestic abuse allegation, and instead they refer to it as high conflict parenting when it isn't. And it's really unfair to say to a mother experiencing domestic abuse that it's high conflict parenting, because one of the things about a mother experiencing domestic abuse, genuinely experiencing domestic abuse, is they're not going to try and wind up their abuser. They're usually acquiescing to anything. They're already totally paranoid about the fact that there ought to be contact, and oh my god, it's going to look badly on me if I don't allow contact, and what should I set up, and is there any way for it to be supervised, when they actually know it's really not safe. And as a solicitor, my job is quite often to say, look, this abuse is here. It's not safe. So you think it's not safe, you've got the evidence here that supports that it's not safe, and so your position is that you're not okay with contact. And then practice direction 12J, until the court have determined and used that to work out what to do with the domestic abuse, and it doesn't always have to go to fact finding, it very much depends on the circumstances. the practice direction has to be processed by the court. The court must do it. So there's the mechanism. So I'm anxious about this telephone appointment. I'm anxious because I'm going to feel scrutinised, judged already by the CAFCAS officer. The CAFCAS officer doesn't have a lot of background until I give them background, so I've got to dig out files, collect evidence, get ready to send it to the court. Remember, I'm really busy with work. I want to concentrate on my own work. I'm in court tomorrow with a client and I've done all the preparation I need to, but I would really like to just relax. And this evening I can't do that because I've got to find the things for my own proceedings. And I've got to think about it, and I can feel myself getting anxious. I've just done all the CBT therapy. I'm going into my next therapy, which is going to be mindfulness, and it's to help me to deal with the anxiety that is gnawing away at me, even on all the medications that I'm on. And it's increasing as I get closer to the court date. It's increasing. I will panic when I see the letter, just a letter from CAFCAS saying, okay, this is when we're going to have the telephone appointment. Please make sure you're free at this time. Because they'll speak to my ex-abuser and they will speak to me. And this letter, the safeguarding letter, at this stage, all the CAFCAS officer does is report back to the court. He said this, she said this. So when you read it, it sounds like they're stating the truth of what he said. That's not correct. They're just reporting back at this stage what the parties have said. The frightening thing is that they then make initial recommendations to the courts, and they may also recommend some kind of contact, because they're still working. I think some CAFCAS officers, 50-50, are still working on the older changes to the legislation, which is where the Children and Families Act, Section 11, inserted into the Children Act 1989, paragraph 2, capital A, and it says that the court should assume that the involvement of both the parents in the child's life is in the child's best interests. So I think from that, the CAFCAS officers are taking it that, well, it doesn't matter if there's been domestic abuse in the parties, that's the parties' business. And what are we going to do? These two need their heads knocking together because we just need to get contact sorted out, because the child should have contact with both parents no matter what. No, the child should not have contact with both parents no matter what. There's a report, it's quite old now, Women's Aid, 29 child homicides. These are deaths of children from an abusive parent. And it's so sad. It's there, it's in the news. And you don't have to look very far to see it. Abusive people mistreating their children. Because for them, the dynamic is that I believe they don't see the child as their own person in their own right, with their own opinions. I don't like it when daddy talks bad about mummy, that kind of thing. Because they see all people as vessels to be filled with their opinion. And that's what I think the abusive personality does. This is controlling, trying to control what a person thinks. Which again is very subtle, and it's there. And I want to show in our video series all of these different forms of abuse. Just coming back to what the purpose of this vlog is, I'm giving you an overview of behind the scenes work, what's going on. I've mentioned the episodes, I've mentioned my joining of the support group and the fact that I need to do that. I need that support. My life is very, very busy. It's a normal family home. I've got a late tea to cook. I've got to get the washing on, get the uniform cleaned, and we've got some duckling eggs. I've got to make sure they're okay in the incubator. Just the madness that is a family home. So thank you for sharing this vlog with me, and I hope I've given you an insight into what's going on in the background. Literally in the background, I think Paul just walked in, so I'll leave it here. It's been quite a long vlog, and thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.